Monday, March 11th, 2019. Ms. Eicher, please take roll call.
Mayor Christy Melendez.
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Ken Bennett.
Here.
Miles Baker.
Here.
Barry Wilson.
Here.
Paul Rennemeyer.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
David Soslowski.
Here.
Mr. Soslowski, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item this evening is review of agenda by the board and addition of items of new business to the agenda for consideration.
Madam Mayor, I have to, in reviewing the agenda, I would move to remove from tonight's agenda item C1. Special counsel to the board is advised that more documentation is required, and they will be preparing this information for us at our next regularly scheduled meeting, March 25th, 2019.
Okay, so we'll be removing item C1 this evening from the agenda. Does anybody have anything else? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the agenda as revised?
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Bennett with a second from Dr. Jones to accept the agenda as revised. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the agenda is approved as revised unanimously. Moving on, we have something special this evening. Item 4, we have presentation from the Windsor Police Department. Is going to be presenting some awards. So Lieutenant Ziegler.
Good evening, Mayor Melendez, members of the board, Town Manager Hale, and members of the community. On behalf of Chief Klimick, I'm here to present some awards to some of our police officers. Sergeant Lopez and Officer Humar, can you approach, please? This award is for a life-saving award for the Windsor Police Department. On December 12, 2018, Windsor Police Department responded to a report of an unresponsive male. Officer Shumar and Sergeant Lopez were the first two to arrive on scene there. They found a male who was unconscious and not breathing. They also found drug paraphernalia nearby. They did a quick assessment of the scene and determined that possible drug overdose had occurred. Due to the conditions, they went ahead and administered Narcan and then started doing CCR. Narcan is a spray that officers carry that counteracts the overdose from an opioid. So they're quick thinking, they did that, and then they started doing CCR, the compressions, and they were able to revive the male. The medical staff arrived on scene, and the male was transported to the hospital, and he survived. Had it not been for the quick thinking and the actions of these officers, likely that individual would have died that day. So their quick thinking, their courage, their initiative, and their ability to remain calm during this situation definitely made the situation better, and their conduct exemplifies the mission of the Windsor Police Department to make a difference every day, and they should be commended. So, officers. I have a plaque and also a citation award for each of them. Next, I call up Detective Kraus. Detective Kraus's award is for the Meritorious Service Award. Many times, officers are required to make split-second decisions under tense and uncertain situations. This requires them to remain calm and to think very quickly, but in a very conscious manner. So, on August 29th, 2018, Detective Kraus was on patrol, and he noticed a suspicious vehicle with a male. The male was walking away from the car. Detective Kraus discovered that the car was stolen. The male was walking into the convenience store. Detective Kraus went to contact the male in the convenience store. The male immediately turned around with a knife in his hand and started advancing on Detective Kraus. Detective Kraus remained calm, maintained his composure, and ordered the subject several times to drop the knife. Eventually, the subject did drop his knife. Officer Kraus relied on his training and also his skill in remaining calm and being able to make split-second decisions. Again, this is an example of an officer using, his courage and remaining calm under those tense conditions. So, this could have easily ended in tragedy. Instead, because of the quick thinking of Detective Kraus, it ended up in a good situation with the subject going to jail and nobody being hurt. Detective Kraus's professionalism, composure, and exemplary conduct in the face of adversity stands as an example to all to demonstrate his commitment to the Windsor Police Department's mission to make a difference every day. Kraus? On behalf of Chief Clemick, we'd like to thank you all for allowing us to do this and present awards to our employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to us. And on behalf of myself and the board and our community, we thank our officers, all of our officers, and I think these two men and this young woman that you brought before us today do exemplify what makes our community such a special place, because we have a force and a group of folks who truly care about this community and the people they serve. And that is why this community, time and time again, breaks and tops us as a safe place to live. And our folks are very concerned all the time and rate safety as number one, as a priority. And because of you and the folks in blue, you make that happen for us all. So thank you. Thank you for all that you do, for putting your lives out there every single day. But mostly, thank you for caring about this community and serving as you do. Thank you. Our next item this evening, item 5, is Board Liaison Reports. Town Board Member Baker, Tree Board and Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you. I have no update. There's not been a meeting since my last report.
Okay. Town Board Member Wilson, Parks, Recreation and Culture, Advisory Board, Poudre River Trail Corridor.
Yeah, with Parks and Recreation, the advisory board is going through the process of evaluating and some of the rules that we have in our parks, open spaces and trails. You may have seen the survey that went out about smoking and vaping. There's been an incredible response. I think there are over 800 responses in the first 24 hours. So once that information comes back, they'll move forward with it. And the recycling center has been reopened. That's been publicized. There were some problems with a cardboard compactor, but they've worked around that. The Poudre River Trail, they did have a retreat last Thursday. I was out of town. So Wade Willis represented Windsor. He's part of that board as well. So I'll have an update the next time we get together with what happened at the retreat.
Okay. I did notice going by there just like yesterday, There's a lot of cardboard because of the winds that had blown over the fence, so hopefully because of the compactor was probably broken. So hopefully that's kind of been picked up, but it was. Yeah, it was overflowing and it was like all over in the field to the west.
Okay,
So-
I understand this one ran the way through, but thank you, Paul. Okay.
Okay. Town Board Member Bennett, Water and Sewer Board.
Water and Sewer Board met a couple weeks ago and had the same presentation that we just saw this evening on the hydrology in the Colorado River and the water levels of Lake Powell, Lake Mead, and the need to look at conservation methods.
Okay. Town Board Member Rennemeyer, Chamber of Commerce.
The Chamber of Commerce unfortunately lost our director since our last regularly scheduled board meeting. Several, I think the mayor and I, and I don't know if anybody else made it out. Did you make it out back there, Joe?
I did, I wasn't able to.
Okay. Made it out to McHale's memorial service on Thursday. So it's with heavy hearts that the Chamber of Commerce moves forward. We had a board meeting last week where we addressed our next, who's interim at the moment. Connie, who helped McHale, is actually out on vacation for this whole week, which was perfect timing for her to be able to get away. Her and McHale have been friends for quite some time. But the Chamber of Commerce Board will be meeting. We've delayed the meeting from the second Wednesday this month to the third Wednesday, so we will be having our regular monthly meeting a week from this Wednesday, where we will be making decisions, or they will be making decisions on the direction of the Chamber of Commerce. Until then, most of the events for the month of March are still on as scheduled. So I'll conclude my update.
Okay. Town Board Member Jones, Windsor Housing Authority, Great Western Trail Authority.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Great Western Trail Authority has basically received all the clearances it needs in order to proceed with the construction of the Severance to Eaton portion of the trail, which we hope to have accomplished this summer. The final design has to be approved by CDOT, and it's going to be in their hands here shortly. And once that occurs, we can go to bid. One thing that last month I mentioned that we met with the county commissioners. One of the purposes of that meeting was to get an agreement on the design where the trail is going to cross the county roads. And there's about 6 crossings. These county roads, the speed limit is some places 55 miles an hour. And so that design is going to have to be carefully thought out for the trail users who are going to have to work on the approach signage and make sure that their safety is in mind before they cross those roads. And also, what I neglected to mention last time is we did request the county participate financially and contribute to the maintenance of the trail. And they have pretty much gave us a favorable response that next year they will plug it into their budget for review. They have to go through the budget process. And in light of the fact that 6.5 miles of the 11 miles is in unincorporated Weld, we feel this is a significant step in the right direction to get their participation. Windsor Housing Authority, town board representatives and representatives of the Windsor Housing Authority are going to get together this week and talk about the possibility of forming a joint Windsor Severance Housing Authority. Severance seems to be interested in that prospect. It's strictly in the exploratory stages right now, so we're not sure what will come out of this meeting, but we'll see what happens on Wednesday and how this might be received by the Windsor Housing Authority. And that's it.
Okay. Town Board Member Sizlowski, Clearview Library Board, Planning Commission.
And Madam Mayor, the Planning Commission did meet last Wednesday Nothing unusual. They had number 3 matters on their agenda, 2 of which have been referred over to the board for tonight's meeting. And we will address them here at the board level. The Clearview Library had their meeting on February 28th. It was a meeting where they were swearing in, bringing in 3 new directors to the library board. And they held elections of officers, and the new president of the library board is Rochelle Brodsky, vice president Katie Scherer, treasurer is Ian Whittington, who is current treasurer. He's being backed up by new board member Brian Lemke, so that there will be, Mr. Whittington will be off the board at the end of the year, so they're trying to transition. And secretary is Kendra Adams. The interesting matter, the library is looking to add a business librarian, a librarian focusing specifically on business resource materials. They will add the staff person, but they will be housed in the chamber offices. So they're currently in the recruiting process to find that resource, and I think that would be excellent for Windsor, obviously, in the business community. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. And I have Downtown Development Authority. I don't have anything to report since my last report. We have not met since that time. North Front Range MPO, though, did meet on March 7th, so last Thursday. A couple of things out of that meeting. We did plan to tell give Johnny Olson, CDOT Region 4 Director, our thanks and send him off with a goodbye, but he was not able to attend. So we celebrated with his cupcakes in his absence and gave him an honorary farewell anyway. I will be meeting with CDOT, with Johnny, and I believe the new CDOT director in early April. They've asked for me to attend a meeting up here in Region 4 for a meeting with CDOT. So, and I want to remind our folks that this Wednesday at Fire Station 1, or Tuesday, tomorrow.
Wednesday.
That's Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 13th.
It is Wednesday. It's the
Wednesday.
13th. Okay. Wednesday the 13th at Fire Station 1 from 6 to 8.
4 to 6:30.
4 to
I didn't
6:30?
know
Yeah,
what
4 to
day it is.
6:30.
I think it is 4 to 6:30.
It's 4 to 6:30.
4 to 6:30. Okay. 4 to 6:30 on Wednesday, this Wednesday, March 13th at Fire Station 1. CDOT will be there to get input from all the community concerning what, they're going to talk to you about 392 and 257 and show you some alternatives and some different things that they are thinking about, and that's the opportunity for them to get and hear from our citizens, hear their feedback on that project. So that will be available this Wednesday. Couple other things. What we've learned, 402 is going to be closed from about May to October. You'll be able to go in and out on those exits, but you won't be able to cross as part of the CDOT construction process as it continues to move forward. There are 2 resolutions that are coming out of the North Front Range MPO right now. First resolution we talked about briefly at our work session this evening, and that is for the recent ZEV-LEV mandate, but there is also another one that will be circulating for the infra grant that we just applied for to hopefully get some additional dollars. We're hoping to leverage about $100 million for that remaining $250 million that we are trying to get to secure the final stretch for I-25. What are the improvements that are needed. And if we get those dollars in funding, then we actually would be able to not just do the temporary solution and fix that we're kind of looking at right now, but we could move more into the permanent solution. So there will be, again, when we asked the folks who are going after this grant how we could help, they've indicated that the more support that we can show on these things, and the support will probably come, I'm guessing, in another letter of resolution, the better that would be. So those 2 things are coming up, and so we should have that letter. We were waiting on some items to come from CDOT so that we could construct, so that letter, that resolution could be constructed from MPO. Our executive director at MPO is out on some medical leave for about the next, till about early April. So Becky Carrasco is going to be the acting director there in her short absence over there. Let's see, was there anything else? I think, the other thing with the multiple I-25 improvement projects that are taking place simultaneously, they are working to better coordinate their communication efforts, so from CDOT to the general public. So they're looking at how they can better coordinate all of that so that everybody is much more aware in a much easier, more readily available, and probably more proactive place when there's going to be closures or short-term detours and that kind of thing. So they are working on some coordinated communication approaches to that. And I believe that concludes my report.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I have some breaking news from the MPO.
Oh,
Due to inclement weather, CDOT is rescheduling the public meeting. More info will be posted when it is available.
okay, there is supposed to be a
Not to
blizzard.
confuse
There
matters
is
or
supposed to be a
clarify.
blizzard on Wednesday, so
Yes.
everybody stay home and watch for our next report.
They're planning ahead.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Hale's gonna be there tomorrow night, so.
I'm gonna show up at home with cameras, I have no idea.
He'll give us the report tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Twitter.
So moving on then to item 6, public invited to be heard. This is for individuals wishing to participate on a non-agenda item. We have one person this evening, Mr. Whittington. If you'd like to step forward, please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Mayor, board members. My name's Ian Whittington. I am at 409 Elm Street here in Windsor, and I am a trustee of the Clearview Library District. The district has dispatched me tonight to informally visit with you all and let you know about some of the exciting events that our wonderful professional staff has in store for the community in the next month. And I had the pleasure of reviewing and doing a quick hand count of the events that are scheduled in the next month. And there are actually 250 events scheduled at our library in the next month. You as town board members and all of your constituents are invited to attend them all. One that I'm especially looking forward to is the Police Officer Story Time, scheduled with Severance Police Department on March 19th, as well as with Windsor Police Department on March 21st. I wanted to extend my gratitude to those 2 agencies for participating. There's also an event called the Better Angels Workshop, which we as leaders in the community and any community member is encouraged to sign up. Registration is required for this one. It's taking place at the library on March 23rd. Better Angels Workshop is an extension of an organization that's gained nationwide attention for the good work that it's accomplishing in the area of building strong local communities despite differences in political opinion. And speaking of community, the Clearview Bookmobile Day has become a great tradition here in the Windsor and Severance communities, and this year is extra exciting because it will be on May 4th. In the past, it's been a great and popular day down at Boardwalk Park, and you all are invited to not only attend, but contribute a pot of chili for the now annual chili cook-off. The board of the library district hereby challenges the Windsor Town Board to offer its best chili cook-off. And as an extra theme, since it is May the 4th, I have information from our library director, Ann Kling, that Chewbacca will be putting in a special appearance at Bookmobile Day this year. So you as Windsor Town Board members are encouraged and invited to check out more at clearviewlibrary.org. And you as well as all of your constituents are encouraged to visit that website. And even better, our library, which is wonderful, the Windsor Severance Library at 3rd and Garden. Thanks for the opportunity to visit, and thanks for your service on the board.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item B, the consent calendar. We have 2 items on the consent calendar this evening: minutes of the February 28th, 2019 regular meeting and resolution number 2019-20. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer with a second from Mr. Wilson, approving the consent calendar as presented. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the consent calendar passes unanimously. Moving on to item C, our first item this evening will actually be item 2. as we're skipping over item 1 this evening. And item 2 is a public hearing for a conditional use grant for agricultural uses in the General Commercial Zone District and Residential Mixed Use Zone District for Harmony First Annex. Chris Subrzyk, the owner applicant, Harmony Gardens, Kristen Turner, TB Group, the applicant representative. Quasi judicial, Ms. Malone will give presentation. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Dr. Jones with a second from Mr. Kozlowski to open public hearing. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. Public hearing is now open. Mr. Kozlowski, did you want to read?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Madam Mayor, for the record, I want to point out that in my capacity as town board liaison to the Planning Commission, I was present at the Planning Commission meeting last week during which this matter was previously presented. I wish to state that my participation in the Planning Commission proceeding has in no way influenced me in my capacity as a town board member this evening. I will make my decision and cast my vote this evening on this matter based solely on the evidence presented during this public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Board. This item before you is a conditional use grant for Harmony First Annexation. There's several reasons for this conditional use grant. First, it's to allow a long-term temporary use of nursery and greenhouses associated with commercial garden center. Second, the code outlines the CUG process for uses that aren't specifically addressed in the municipal code, and the agricultural uses are part of that. Third, this is in a commercial corridor area, and the commercial corridor guidelines do not address the greenhouse buildings. And then last, the time period is not to expire. This will be, again, a long-term use until the property is developed for a higher, better use. The property is located just east of Weld County Road 13 and south of Harmony Road. This was master planned for a residential and commercial neighborhood. That master plan still exists, so the CUG would allow this use to be in place until the time that master plan is developed. The property is both general commercial and residential mixed use, and the CUG would allow the agricultural uses in both of these zone districts. Concurrent with the CUG, the applicant has turned in a site plan, which is still under review. This is the last site plan that staff did review. Just going over the traffic, there will be full access to the site. Over here to the east will be future right-of-way that's dedicated. These improvements will be made with the overall Harmony Road improvements. There will be both a XL and decel lane as shown up here. The property is served with the Lake Lee lateral, and that raw water comes from both Larimer and Weld. The sanitation is served by Box Elder. The garden center is located in this area, and then there are greenhouses in this area, and then the existing tree farm is to the west. The greenhouse buildings were designed to be as compatible as possible with the commercial corridor plan standards, incorporating a number of materials besides the glass, wainscot along the base, and some columns on the sides of the buildings to blend in with both the agricultural uses that are existing in the area as well as the residential, especially to the north. And this is another view of the greenhouse buildings. And the landscape plan, which will include buffering around the parking area, as well as street trees and buffering along Harmony Road, and also a vast number of plants in this area, also serving as display for the business. And this is, again, Harmony Road and street trees. So this application is consistent with the conditional use standards as outlined in these 9 items here and in your packet in more detail. Now, this is a 121-acre site. And again, this will ensure that the agricultural use will be permitted within the general commercial and RMU zone district. The site is adequately screened, consistent with the overall area, and no hazardous materials are proposed for the site. This use is compatible with the surrounding area. It also will support development in this area. There was not a neighborhood meeting required for the CUG, but there were public notices sent out to the area shown here in yellow. No comments were received from any neighbors. And at the March 6, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission did forward a recommendation of approval to the town board with the condition that the final site plan and development agreement be approved by town staff prior to building permit. Staff requests that the following be entered into the record: the application, supplemental materials, staff memorandum, supporting documents, testimony from the public hearing, and the recommendation. And that concludes my presentation. Mr. Sabusic is here if you have any questions for him.
Are there any questions, Dr. Jones?
Just one, will the road on the east, is that going to be paved initially?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
Just out of curiosity, is this in addition to Harmony Gardens? Are you moving, or?
They're moving their business
Okay.
from there, yes.
Okay. I have a question, because it's, and just for clarification, is this one building, like several buildings, but they're all joined together, or is it multiple buildings?
It's multiple buildings.
Okay. How many buildings in total?
There are 3 that will have domestic water taps.
Okay.
One is a greenhouse, one is the garden center, and one is an adjacent nursery. Just for clarification though, the domestic taps won't serve any of the plant materials, including the greenhouses.
Mr. Sosowski. No, I was just finishing
I
the
know.
sentence.
Did you have a question?
Thank you.
No, but he was anticipating I would ask dual taps. But when I heard it was Larimer well, water source, it's up to them.
Right.
So that's just, so they're town water customers for the domestic,
Yeah.
but they've got Larimer well, a water source for their raw water.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? If not, this is the public hearing portion, so if there's anybody who wished to address the board on this particular agenda item, this would be the time to step forward. Seeing none, did you have anything further to add for the record?
Nothing further.
Okay, then I would seek a motion to close public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer with a second from Mr. Baker to close public hearing. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item 2 then is conditional use grant, CUG, for agricultural uses in the general commercial zone district and residential mixed use zone district. Anything further to add?
Nothing further.
Any further questions or comments from the board?
I'd just
Dr.
like to make
Jones?
one, you know, we've talked in the past about community separators, and even though this may be temporary, but she said long-term temporary, I think it's a good start in that particular area.
Anything else? Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the conditional use grant.
Second?
Motion on the floor from Mr. Redemeyer with a second for Mr. Benner approving the conditional use grant. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the conditional use grant passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item D, communications. Communications from Town Attorney's Office?
No communications.
Communications from town staff. Mr. Wagner? Mr. Ballstead? Lieutenant Ziegler, anything further? And communications from our town manager. Communications from town board. The only thing that I have to say is I do have coffee with the mayor this Saturday at the CRC at the rec center, and we are focusing and dedicating that time to have our focus on water. So I believe I'll have Mr. Thornhill and remind me the lady who's joining me, the stormwater. Jeannie, yeah, so she'll be, so if anybody has questions about water or water rates or anything, please come, and you can come even if you don't want to discuss water as well, but we'll have folks on hand who can discuss our water issues with us at the coffee this Saturday. And if there's no further communications, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second?
Motion on the floor from Mr. Redemeyer with a second from Mr. Wilson to adjourn. All in favor, vote yes, opposed no. We are adjourned. Thank you.
45 minutes.
Oh, geez. I don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah. That's right, that's right.